The bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association cite 6 sources of our living tradition. The first is direct experience of that transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to a renewal of spirit and an openness to the forces that uphold and create life. I am glad they listed this first, for it refers to transcendentalism, the only one of the sources that flourished and originated within our tradition. It was a movement that centered around Ralph Waldo Emerson, who started his career as a Unitarian minister. It consisted mostly of Unitarians, but also included Walt Whitman, who attended the National Universalist Church in Washington, D.C., and it gave voice to abolition and feminism through Lydia Marie Child and Margaret Fuller and Louisa May Alcott, as well as other literary figures of the mid-19th century. It encouraged people to trust their personal experience with what they perceived to be holy. Direct experience of transcending mystery and wonder. The search begins not in church or scripture, but with oneself. Lydia Marie Child wrote, Emily Dickinson, wrote, "I am out with lanterns looking for myself." And Thoreau said, "Be you. Be yourself, not your idea of what you think someone else's idea of yourself should be." And the 20th century UU poet E.E. Cummings said, "It takes courage to grow up and become who you really are." And Emerson, "The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be." And now, with Lydia Child, belief in oneself is one of the most important bricks in building any successful venture. That idea of self-reliance, that all religion ultimately relies on our self-interpretation, whether we hear it from an authority, whether we see it in nature. Ultimately, we are the ones who decide. We are the ones who need to be true to our own understanding. That transcendent mystery and wonder is a land of dreams. These dreams, these fancies, they seem unreal to those around you. These thoughts that you have in your head, but pursuing them is what makes your life worthwhile. Thoreau writes, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you have imagined. If you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them." Emerson wrote, "Don't be pushed by your problems, be led by your dreams." And I just think of that, how often, if I start a week with a to-do list, and then I open up my email and answer my phone messages, and the things on my personal to-do list never get done because I get pushed by my problems, but I get led down pathways, and that I lose sight of what I want to accomplish. And that idea of pursuing one's dreams, and that one should take time each day to do those things that are seemingly impossible, and set aside time for that, because there's always something more urgent. And dreams, taking time for that just seems like a waste of time. But Christopher Reeves, who is a Unitarian Universalist, who played Superman in the movies, and later inspired many as he went through full paralysis, but never lost hope. He said, at first dreams seem impossible, then improbable, and then inevitable. Margaret Fuller said, only the dreamer shall understand realities, though in truth the dreaming must be in proportion, not be out of proportion to his waking. Realizing that your dreams may be just distant and they may be world peace. I dream of that, and I realistically don't think it's going to happen in my lifetime. But I try to step in the direction of those dreams, because I take the words of Louisa May Alcott into view. Far away there in the sunshine are my highest aspirations. I may not reach them, but I can look up and see their beauty, believe in them, and try to follow where they lead. The generation of transcendentalists were so full of words. Bronson Alcott, Louisa's father, Emerson, Thoreau, and Margaret Fuller wrote these long essays, and they have lots of quotes in their essays, but when you read the actual essays, you have to kind of go through lots and lots of stuff, because the 19th century literary style is very thick. And I think we all are thankful for Emily Dickinson, who 40 years later said, I can say what they said in 3 words. And she did. In this thing about dreaming, she said these 3 words: dwell in possibility. Just think of that. That's something that you can carry from this sermon, that whenever you're facing something, that coworker, that political thing that's on TV, that tragedy that's on the other side of the world, those moments when you say, what am I going to do? When the weight of the world has come crashing down, dwell in possibility. dwell in possibility. That gives us a window of freedom, a window of recreating our own world at any moment. No matter where we're living now, no matter what our situation, we can dwell in possibility. The optimism of the Transcendentalism fueled the American character of self-reliance. It embodies the American dream of adventure, but it's not limited to American culture. It's a human experience. It's experienced by all. And one person who shared this impulse and who was influenced by this literary style was the Bengali poet Rabindranath Tagore. Or more accurately, both he and the Transcendentalists were influenced by Ramoon Roy, a late 18th and early 19th century writer. Roy founded a Unitarian form of Hinduism called the Brahmo Samaj. He translated the Vedas into English. And it was his translation of the Rig Veda that Thoreau took with him to read while he was at Walden. Tagore's father succeeded Roy as the leader of the Brahmo Samaj. And Tagore was born in 1861 and won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913. And it's no surprise that Tagore's writings also have this transcendentalist feel. He wrote, "Love is an endless mystery, for it has nothing else to explain it. We cross infinity with every step. We meet eternity in every second. I believe in a spiritual world, not as anything separate from this world, but as its innermost truth. With the breath we draw, we must always feel this truth, that we are living in God." So what are these forces that uphold and sustain life? As the saying says, the transcending mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures, which moves us to renewal of the spirit and an openness to the forces which create and uphold life. Well, prevalent in transcendentalism is nature. Walt Whitman wrote, "A morning glory at my window satisfies me more than the metaphysics of books." And then Dickinson wrote, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and never stops at all." And Tagore, her contemporary, also saw in the birds faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. And Emerson wrote, "Adopt the pace of nature. Her secret is patience." And then Thoreau, the lover of nature, said, "Nature is full of genius, full of the divinity, so that not a snowflake escapes its fashioning hand. That sense that even as each snowflake is a unique constellation of divine energy, each of us is a unique manifestation. We are temporary, but we are also special, and we should take that seriously and be the best self that we can be in our brief moment, because we are the only self that's going to be like us ever. That's amazing. You are amazing, so be amazing. And Margaret Fuller, reflecting and inspired by nature, wrote, "Very early, I knew that the only object in life was to grow." The forces that create and uphold life may be God, but not a distant and separate God, but one that is united with humanity and the world. Earlier I quoted Tagore that said, with each breath we realize that we are living in God. Walt Whitman wrote, "In the faces of men and women I see God. I say to mankind, be not curious about God, for I, who am curious about each, am not curious about God. I hear and behold God in every object, yet understand God not in the least." And Emerson, whom we read earlier, speaking about humanity in the language of the day, "Within man is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty." Lydia Maria Child, who wrote books on comparative religion back in the 19th century when women weren't supposed to be writing books, and let alone comparative religion wasn't supposed to be admired because there was only European superiority and paganism. She tried to see that this impulse was acknowledged in all cultures. And she wrote that the unwillingness to acknowledge whatever is good in religion foreign to our own has always been a very common trait of human nature. But it just seems to be neither generous nor just. This transcending mystery and wonder that upholds and creates love, life may be the power of love. Tagore writes, "Love is the only reality, and it is not a mere sentiment. It is the ultimate truth that lies at the heart of creation." Child writes, "The cure for all ills and wrongs, the cares, the sorrows, and the crimes of humanity all lie in the one word, love. It is the divine vitality that everywhere produces and restores life." Margaret Fuller, in a poetic moment, captures nature and human immortality and love in this poem. Come, let us mount on the wings of morning, flying for joy of the flight, wild with all longing, now soaring, now staying, mingling like day and dawn, swinging and swaying, hung like a cloud in the light. I am immortal. I feel it. I feel it. Love bears me up. Love is might. And Emerson, in one of his surprisingly simple moments, writes, religion is to do right. It is to love. It is to serve. It is to think. It is to be humble. To be humble. That is the paradox of this transcendental mystery, this direct experience. Because when one looks at the stars at night, one says, oh my goodness, I am so infinitely small. And at the same time, I am so much a part of this infinitely huge universe. That sense of immensity, of hubris and greatness, at the same time of humility and small. And then when one realizes that one is part of something so big, the petty things that we get upset about in our day-to-day lives can seem very small indeed. But it's hard. It's hard to keep reminding ourselves that we indeed are part and parcel of God. We are part and parcel of the universe, that we are indeed very great, and that we really do not need very much. Tagore put it, it is very simple to be happy, but it is very difficult to be simple. Margaret Fuller said, men, for the sake of getting a living, forget to live. I think how many times that the job description of being a minister prevents me from actually ministering. And of course, the famous saying by Thoreau, our life is frittered away by detail. Simplify, simplify. To get to that place where we just know, where we just know that we belong, that we just know that we are part of something greater than ourselves. Walt Whitman captured it with "I exist as I am." That is enough. That would be a very existential place to leave this sermon. It doesn't feel enough for me. Because I want to be happier than enough. So I'm going to leave you and myself with this quote from Emily Dickinson, that find ecstasy in life. The mere sense of living is joy enough. The mere sense of living is joy enough. May we bless and be blessed.